Try this training structure so that you're no longer stuck on the planche. The first thing you're going to do is choose a planche variation that you can do well so you can do it often, grease to groove style. A big hurdle that I see is going from planche lean to tuck planche. So planche lean, you're going to work on all the components of the planche so that you can mimic that as best as possible, and you're holding a position for about 50 to 60% of your ability level. Again, you're going to do this often. Each day throughout the day, giving yourself a random day of rest. For example, 3 days on, 1 day off. Focus on the positions of the planche that are important, like keeping your arms totally straight, your scapulars protracted and depressed, and keeping a posterior pelvic tilt. And then you can practice leaning forward. Then with whatever progression you're at, you can keep those same positions so that you improve other components of strength like muscle recruitment, synchronization, and motor learning. The reason we do an easy progression is so that you could skip a warm-up, you could do it often, morning, midday, evening, and so you can focus on perfect form so that you form that mind-body connection. Now you do have the option of doing a warm-up before grease the groove, but ultimately it's up to you. And if you have some limitations like your wrist, where you don't have a lot of wrist flexibility compared to your strength in the planche, then you can focus on some wrist stretches beforehand, just making sure you're not fatiguing yourself when you prep your body. I do recommend doing some form of prep work before your actual planche workout so you prep the muscles beforehand so you can go into it with a high intensity. Something I would recommend if you don't have any physical limitations is doing some of the grease to groove, easier progressions as your warm-up. But of course, if you have an issue with your scapular protraction, do some scapular protraction exercises. If you have issues with your wrist, do some wrist stretches, and so on. For the workout, I would highly recommend doing something full range of motion that also mimics the planche, like pseudo planche push-ups or dips with scapular protraction at the top. Lastly, it's the accessory work. You could choose movements that focus on specific weak links that you have, such as your chest, biceps, radius anterior, etc. And you can focus on strengthening those individual muscle groups, or you could choose exercises that mimic the planche, like this cable pulley drill that I'm doing here, so that you focus on using the muscles of the planche together to, again, work on your muscle recruitment and synchronization. Reps and sets don't matter nearly as much as you might think either, but the important thing here is working at 50 to 60% of your ability level for grease the groove. Your push section, think of keeping it under 10 reps at a high intensity. I would even suggest under 5 reps if you're a bit more advanced. And then for the last thing, you can increase the reps more since you're able to use easier exercises for the isolation and accessory work, and you can build a bit more conditioning, and if you want to, you can go even near failure if you're a bit more advanced.